Want to sharpen your game? Join the DFM Coaching Patreon for exclusive technique breakdowns and mindset training. Now, let's get started.
Welcome to Tapped In. My name is David Figueroa Martinez of DFM Coaching, and today we're going to be discussing what the Savannah Bananas can teach Jiu-Jitsu. That title alone is kind of weird, and I'm probably going to go with something different or more. I don't know, actually. So if you don't know, Savannah Bananas are this odd, it's a league, and it's also a team based around upping the fan experience for baseball. They do a lot of wild shit. The rules are different, but they are selling out everywhere. They do flips as they catch the ball. They celebrate. They dance. They do a lot of wild shit to get atmosphere in a certain level where it makes people enjoy their outing. The other thing that they do really well, I was listening to an interview with the owner, and he talked about how important the fan experience is. So they go out there, they do meet and greets, they do signings, pictures, all before the game. They go out of their way to make sure that they understand that they are not there for baseball. They understand that they're not there for the sport per se, that that's really a side piece to what they're doing. And what they're doing is engaging with people and engaging with families so that the families enjoy themselves. And then they do some baseball. If I'm wording that correctly. Their success has been specifically on realizing that they're not necessarily, like I said, in the business of baseball, even though that's kind of what they're selling on the ticket. They're there to entertain. They're there to get people to come out, enjoy themselves, laugh, smile, engage, be able to bring out their families, be able to just touch people. Like, you don't want to be so disconnected that, like the way baseball is right now. The idea of me being able to take a picture with my favorite stars, it's not impossible, but it's not high. At that, with the Savannah Bananas in the league, they are more reachable, they're more attainable, which Jiu-Jitsu has for it. I want us to look at the idea that how important fun is for the experience. I've been in gyms, I've watched gyms where we take things a little too seriously. We take, oh, this person's late, go do some push-ups. Oh, this person, they have a rip in the seam of the gi, go do some push-ups. We've had no talking during rolling. Let's be serious. All of these things. And I can understand why they might be important if we're competing. And maybe we want this to be a serious playground in this hour. But sometimes it goes beyond that, and some coaches want it to be the experience. They want it to be a serious matter where serious students are doing serious shit. And there's a time and place for that. There really is. There's a time and place for all of it. But we really have to understand as coaches that if Jiu-Jitsu feels like an obligation that I have to go to because I spent $200 or whatever your monthly fee is, I'm going to more than likely not go when things get difficult. I'm going to more than likely maybe skip a couple classes when I'm not up for it. I'm going to go and maybe not ever compete because if this is serious at this level, I don't want to see what competition class and competing is going to feel like. We have to understand that our job, kind of like the Savannah Bananas, and I know this is a weird flex or a weird connection, is to make sure that we're having fun, is to make sure that you're having fun. We want you to get really good at Jiu-Jitsu. We want you to get as good as you can get. If we can get you to black belt, great. If maybe you're a certain age and black belt's not really attainable because of the age, then we want you to get to the next belt, however high that is. Daily, we want you to have fun. We want you to laugh. We want you to crack jokes. We want you to enjoy the time that we're here. And this silliness about trying to be super rigid and stoic is just a waste of time. I don't want that for my classes at all. I don't want that for the classes that I enter. I don't want it to feel like a mausoleum where people are quiet. I want jokes. I want laughter. I want people to enjoy themselves. So when I look at my class, for example, doesn't even matter where I teach. I teach at 3 different spots right now. What you'll feel in these classes is people having fun and joking. There'll be drilling, and you'll hear conversations that have nothing to do with jiu-jitsu. You'll hear conversations that maybe they do have something to do with jiu-jitsu, but it's something that happened earlier in the week, and they're kind of like telling a funny story while they're drilling. You'll hear moments of laughter during actual sparring. Oh, I can't believe you did that. Or I can't believe, or we butted heads like 2 white belts, so 2 noobs, or I can't believe you're wrist locking me. I'm your professor. Or what, it doesn't really matter. But that's how I measure if this class was successful. If the class is too rigid and I have people not engaging on that level, my opinion, they miss more. They miss more of the details. They miss more of the lesson that I'm trying to give them. When they're open and when they're the most open for the details that they need, it's when they're relaxed. It's when they're having fun. It's when they can feel free enough to ask questions at the end of class in front of everyone. That's the environment I want to have. And the environment that, in large part, not that they're asking questions, but the Savannah Bananas are creating an environment where people feel like they can be goofy and they can be silly and they can bring their walls down and just have fun. There's an element to that we have to have in jiu-jitsu in order to encourage people to just be like, this is the place that I want to be, even when the day is hard, even when I'm struggling, and I don't want to give up. Like if you're in a spot in a gym that's really rigid, and something happens where you're like, I'm getting a little short on money every month. Maybe I need to give this up. It's not as fun for me. Feels like a job. Feels like something that I have to do. So if I save this $200, we can pay this bill or save it towards a vacation, or we have these other things, obligations that I need to meet. But when you're in an environment where it is mentally, emotionally, and physically good for you, I don't want to give up that $200. I don't want to. I'd rather pay, and I want to go, and maybe I can arrange some other financial aspects where I cut back on Starbucks or eating out or something else. But I need to make sure that I still have jiu-jitsu, because that's my spot. That's where I feel most at home. That's when I feel most relaxed. That's when I feel most rejuvenated. That's where my people are at, and they give me so much. I need to make sure that I can still do this. People will make that decision if they feel like they matter, like their existence is fun, like they're enjoying themselves. You don't want to make it so fun that people just like the structure of the class is shit, and there's no structure and there's no learning going on. But you don't want to be so far to the right where it's super rigid either. You want to have something in the middle, and each instructor is going to do it differently than everyone else, and that is on us to decide. But it's really important for us to make that decision with some intent. Not all of us are entertainers. I don't view myself as an entertainer. I don't view myself as a class clown or someone that likes attention on me. But I find myself, because of the situations where I can crack jokes willingly. I can crack jokes really silly because I feel comfortable in the position I'm in. Not that I'm a comedian, but I feel the room, and I can see where I can crack a joke, or I can make a comment at someone's expense, but it's not laughing at them. We're laughing together because we all make the same mistakes at some point. Something that we need to do is to strip away all the boring shit. For those of you who are still doing warm-ups the old way, front roll, back roll, hip escape, shrimp, so that's hip escape, bear crawl, and so on, get rid of that shit. And I mean that respectfully. I understand warming up, and I understand, and I don't mean this disrespectfully at all. I understand warming up and the need to. If you want to do traditional warm-ups, so be it. They shouldn't be 10, 15, 20 minutes long. And I think that's really what I'm getting at. I've been at gyms where they want to exhaust you with exercise and then go do drills and then spar. Like that's, you're wasting too much of the class setting on warm-ups that are not making me better. Now, if the warm-up is something made to warm up specifically the body in a certain way to prevent injuries, I'm all for it. Hey, we did 5 to 7 minutes. Cool. Let's now get to jiu-jitsu. Let's start drilling or situational sparring or whatever we need to get to. I'm all for that. I just hate watching and being a part of warm-ups that are meant to somehow drain you or tax your cardio just for the sake of doing it before, but none of the exercises actually like technically make you better. I'm not necessarily paying for that. And it's the reason why so many people, especially purple belts, show up late. They don't see the value in it. They don't see so get rid of it. I remember we had a specific warm-up and I knew why I was doing it. I would set the timer for like 3 minutes and let the student drill whatever they wanted, and then set the timer for another 3 minutes, and the other, like their partner can drill whatever they wanted. And the goal was to make people have to take notice of their game and come in with something that they wanted to work on so that they can spend time building up the game that they were doing. I did one of the surveys, and the top comments I was getting was, we don't really like the warm-ups. So I got rid of them. I didn't see, if they're not enjoying it, they don't feel like they can get anything out of it, even though I know it's going to be beneficial for them. All right, we don't have to do them. So now we do more flowing. Sometimes I give them specific techniques that we're going to use to warm up with. Maybe they're specific to what I'm teaching that day. But more often than not, I set them and I do something silly. Sometimes I do jiu-jitsu chest. Sometimes I do flow rolling. Just something simple just to get the body moving, especially at 5 a.m. and get them to maybe start thinking about some jiu-jitsu stuff, specifically the jiu-jitsu chess. So that I could force them to, hey, where you don't have an answer, you might want to work on. And if you haven't played chess, it's one move at a time. If you can do 2 things at once, I count it. So if I'm player A, I'm on top, and the instruction is player A goes first. If I can get a grip on the collar and the pants at the same time, I can count it. Or I just make me do 1 move. I stop, my partner then does the move, and they stop, and then we go back and forth. And it allows us to slow down jiu-jitsu in a way that we can kind of analyze it a little bit better. Where did I make this mistake, and why did I make this decision? If there's spots where maybe you spend too much time thinking because I don't want them to sit for too long, then maybe that's the spot that you want to work on. You don't have any answers there. Nothing's coming to you. It's a spot we should focus on. So it's something a little goofy. It's silly. They play it for about 3 minutes or so, and then we start class. Nothing big, nothing huge. The other thing that I think that I want to get away with, and the Savannah Bananas do really well, is that they've altered the rules, both written and unwritten, to make the game less serious. When I look at jiu-jitsu, in some academies, there's way too many rules. You have all the gi requirements, patch, gi color. Sometimes you have to have no gi, a kit specifically from that school. That takes away the personality of each student. And I understand we don't want to, I think for pictures and social media and the website, it looks better to have a uniform. People can relate to it, similar to the way you relate to the Chicago Bulls having a uniform, the Lakers, the Patriots, whoever. It's something that Americans could see and understand. For those of us that have been training a while, it just takes away from our uniqueness to have to bend to so many uniform rules. I understand why they're in place. I just don't necessarily like them. So my unique is I have a couple of black gis for the gyms that are not my home gym. And it feels good and it feels a little rebellious and I love it. So I think we should kind of get away a little bit from that and then get rid of all these like arcane rules of like, oh, you got to turn away before you can tie your belts. You got to bow on and off the mat each time. You don't say no to the black belt who asked you to roll. You don't ask the black belt to roll. None of these things are helpful. They are actually counterproductive. They push people away. They make people think too much, and it creates a hierarchy that you don't actually want in place. We already have the belt structure, which it's plus and minuses. But when you put all these other weird rules, like, oh, I don't want to say no to the instructor when he asks me, like, no, you can say no all you want. Like, you don't have to roll with me. If you're tired, it's okay. I'll sit or I'll roll with someone else. I want us to get away from that. I want us to get away from the little silly, odd rules. Oh, you got to do push-ups because you arrived late, or because you arrived late, you have to stand on the edge of the mat before getting on because I have to beckon you. I remember that was a big one when I started teaching at Gracie La Mesa. We were connected to an instructor who was very formal in that sense. And I remember for almost a year, when people were late, they would stand on the edge. I'm like, you don't have to do that. Just get on. I'm busy going from group to group. I'm not looking up to make sure that someone is allowed on the mat. So I don't see it anymore in my classes, which I'm thankful for. It used to drive me nuts. None of these rules are beneficial for us. They don't make you better at jiu-jitsu. They don't make the culture better. They don't generate more respect for anyone. They just kind of get in the way. The other thing that I think part of this is already happening, is that I think people are just generating odd rules to kind of better the sport. When I was coming up, it was all IBJJF. The smaller tournaments kind of followed those rules for the most part. And you had a almost unified rule structure. And then we got stuff like Eddie Bravo Invitational, Combat Jiu-Jitsu, ADCCs, and I understand that was around for a while, but it only comes around every 2 years. You got all these pro-level promotions that are then altering and tweaking the rules a bit. Then you had Quintet, which is almost like Survivor Series of the WWE. I think that's a good thing. Does it kind of hurt that there isn't, like, quote unquote unified rule structure? In some ways, probably. Especially if we want to really get eyeballs to understand the sport a bit better. Because it's weird, if I went to the NBA and I went to then another, and I'm watching basketball at the rec and the rules don't ever translate, and there's a weird rule where, no, in this league we could take 7 steps, in this league it's 2 steps, and then in that league you can actually dribble the ball after you've picked it up and stop dribbling. Like, it would be confusing to the outsider. So there is something about having rule structure that everyone plays to. But at the same time, there's also an interesting aspect of, let's just see where this goes. We're gonna pick up some eyeballs if we add slapping for combat jiu-jitsu. We're gonna pick up some eyeballs if we do strictly no-gi and we have every submission under the sun available. So there's a positive, and I think that us doing that is a net positive for the most part. I want to see more of it. I want us to continue to evolve and go down weird rabbit holes from time to time and just kind of to see what happens. The biggest thing, and I said it earlier, that Savannah Bananas specifically uphold is the customer service. Building community. That is the number one thing every jiu-jitsu school should be striving through on top of technique. There are jiu-jitsu schools out there that they have blue and purple belts manning the gym as owners. And they can set a culture that is above and beyond the black belt from across town and kill them in sales. Because the culture is everything. I don't think, and I'll die on this hill, that the majority of jiu-jitsu students need a black belt. It's helpful. It helps, especially if it's the right black belt who's engaged, who's about community, who's about making sure that you're not making the mistakes he or she made. They can really, really help because there's a lot of experience in there. You got 15, 20, 30, 40 years for that black belt that they can bestow that knowledge. But if they're unable to create the culture that's necessary and have the right customer service base and mentality, understanding that the customer is everything and that this is not a gym like the old school ways where we just want to get the toughest and we want to weed out the people who can't cut it. No, we're in a business. While we don't want to water down the standard, we want to make sure we take care of the people. And we have a class for fundamentals. We have a class for advanced people. We have a class for no-gi, if you want. We have a class, maybe we have a class for people who have mom and kid classes, which I see now more often. Maybe we have just whatever your customer base really needs, you uphold the standard and you apply that and you allow that to happen. In some cases, it's going to be, hey, I do majority no-gi or I do majority gi, but my students want more no-gi. I got to give them the customer service that they need. I got to add a couple of no-gi classes. If I'm not adept enough at no-gi, then I need to up my game. If I'm unable to up my game, then I need to bring someone in that can do that for me. And sometimes that doesn't even mean it's another black belt. Maybe it's a purple belt. Maybe it's a brown belt. Someone who specializes in it and loves no-gi. Do the things that are going to separate you from everyone else. And that's what Savannah Bananas are doing really well. And I see some gyms adapting the idea that, hey, we're a customer service oriented business and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that customers are okay. And then I see some gyms that are very about me, and you guys need to adapt. I've been in that structure. It's not fun. So when I teach classes, I am very specific and goal oriented about, I need to make sure the customer is happy. I check in with the customers regularly. I check in with my students from time to time. I check in with the owner to make sure that they're happy with what I'm providing. I want to make sure that above else, everyone else is taken care of. I'm not lowering the standard. I'm not watering down my technique. But sometimes you need to adjust for the customer. Make sure that they're okay. Make sure they're understanding everything. Maybe I was too technical. Maybe I wasn't technical enough. All these things are things that we need to really consider. And I don't want us to slip back into old way and just, no, we're the business owner. This is not a democracy. This is a dictatorship. No, this is me making sure that my customer base is taken care of. I know it's a weird topic and a weird connection, but I had seen that documentary and it just kind of wasn't even a documentary. It was a podcast episode, and it just kind of stuck with me when it came to how we can run jiu-jitsu and how some of us are running jiu-jitsu and how some of us are kind of falling short. If you have any questions on this or anything else, please hit me up. DFM.2099 on Instagram and Threads. I also have a Patreon page, which I'm adding techniques to every week. There's also blogs and exclusive episodes that I have on there driven by subscriber comments or questions. It is very specific to them. Anything they bring up, I try to cover. And then there's also direct coaching with me if you're interested in that. I think it's going to be a big plus. It does not substitute anything you're doing in the gym. It heightens it, and it allows you to get better faster. Until next time, thank you so much.